Oscar, have you been keeping up with all the Supreme Court news?
Giovanna, I prefer not to discuss politics at work.
Oscar, you work for a news program and have absolutely discussed politics at work.
You got me. I was just worried you start talking about it and I would be super lost because I admit it. I haven't been following the Supreme Court news.
Oscar, there's nothing to be ashamed of. That's why we're here, to inform.
You make a great point. That is why we're here. So do you mind informing me on exactly what the Supreme Court does?
Happily. The United States Supreme Court is the highest court in the judiciary branch of the U.S. government. It consists of 9 justices who are nominated by the president and then confirmed by the Senate for a lifelong appointment. This means they are on the court until they retire or die. They review decisions that have been appealed in lower courts in the judicial branch. Lower courts being regional, state, or local courts. So, for example, if a case comes to decision in a local court, the losing party can ask for a higher court like the state court to review the decision. This is called an appeal. Sometimes these appeals make it all the way through many courts over a long period of time, all the way up to the Supreme Court. These decisions are related to the laws and articles of the Constitution that have become different outcomes in the courts below. The justices ruling for these appeals stand as the final decision.
Okay, these guys are pretty important then.
You said it, Oscar, these guys.
Well, I meant like the royal guys addressing a group.
I know, but it brings me to my next point. The Supreme Court was officially established in 1789, 2 years after it was drawn up in the Constitutional Convention, and since then, there have been 115 Supreme Court justices. Only 5 have been women, and the first woman wasn't even nominated until 1981.
What? Only 5 of 115 in almost 200 years?
Yep, pretty crazy, right? But also not that surprising when you think about the fact that white women weren't able to vote until 1920, and it only took another 61 years for them to have a place on the highest court in the nation.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. These ladies must have been some trailblazers to finally be recognized.
You guessed it. Let me tell you a little bit about them. The first female justice was nominated by President Reagan in 1981 after he made a campaign promise to nominate a woman for the next available seat. Sandra Day O'Connor was a judge and an elected official in Arizona, serving as the first female majority leader of a state senate as the Republican leader in Arizona. She was unanimously confirmed to the seat, meaning every Senate member voted yes. She retired in 2006. The second female justice you may have heard of, the notorious RBG, well, that was Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Known prior to her appointment for her advocacy for gender equality, was appointed by President Jimmy Carter to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. In 1993, President Bill Clinton nominated Justice Ginsburg to the court, where she served until her passing in 2020. In 2009, President Barack Obama nominated the third female justice, Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Prior to her nomination, she heard over 3,000 cases on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. She was the first woman of color and the first person of Latin descent to be nominated to the Supreme Court. During her tenure on the Supreme Court, Justice Sotomayor has stood up for the rights of defendants, for the reform of the criminal justice system, and has made impassioned dissents on issues of race, gender, and ethnic identity. In 2010, President Obama nominated another female justice, Elena Kagan, who prior to her nomination was appointed by then Senator Joe Biden as the special counsel for the Senate Judiciary Committee. During this time, she worked on Justice Ginsburg's Supreme Court confirmation hearings and later became the first female Solicitor General of the United States. In September of 2020, leading up to the November presidential election, President Donald Trump made a controversial decision to nominate Amy Coney Barrett, a United States Circuit judge after the passing of Justice Ginsburg. Ginsburg wished for her replacement not to be chosen until a new president is installed. However, the Senate voted 52 Republicans to confirm Justice Barrett and 48 Democrats opposed, making Barrett the 5th woman justice to serve on the court.
Incredible! What a ride for the women of the Supreme Court. But did I hear you say that Justice Sotomayor was the first and only woman of color to be nominated?
Yep, but Oscar, there have been 2 black men to serve on the court, but a black woman has never even been nominated. Until now, plus we've come full circle, because that's what I was asking at the top. Justice Stephen Breyer has announced his retirement, and that will free up a seat, and President Biden has nominated the first ever African-American woman, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Let me tell you more. The nomination of Judge Jackson fills a campaign promise made by President Biden 2 years ago to nominate a black woman to the seat should one become available. Jackson is a Miami native who attended Harvard Law School and then spent time working in a private law practice and clerking for Justice Breyer. Later, she was confirmed to the United States Sentencing Commissions and in 2021 appointed to the United States Courts of Appeal for the District of Columbia Circuit. Let's now take a look at President Biden's remarks about Jackson and then hear from her about her commitment and what it would mean for her to serve on the nation's highest court.
For too long, our government, our courts, haven't looked like America. And I believe it's time that we have a court that reflects the full talents and greatness of our nation, with a nominee of extraordinary qualifications.
I am truly humbled by the extraordinary honor of this nomination, and I am especially grateful for the care that you have taken in discharging your constitutional duty in service of our democracy with all that is going on in the world today. As it happens, I share a birthday with the first Black woman ever to be appointed as a federal judge, the Honorable Constance Baker Motley. We were born exactly 49 years to the day apart. Today, I proudly stand on Judge Motley's shoulders, sharing not only her birthday, but also her steadfast and courageous commitment to equal justice under law. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, I can only hope that my life and career, my love of this country and the Constitution, and my commitment to upholding the rule of law and the sacred principles upon which this great nation was founded will inspire future generations of Americans.
Wow, that's pretty spectacular. She seems like an incredible woman.
She really does, and it would be amazing to see a black woman serving on the Supreme Court. Like the president said, representing the full talents and greatness of our nation.
Amen to that. Best of luck on the confirmation process, Judge Jackson. We hope to see you on the court very soon.